welcome back to the channel. So I decided to have a little bit of a discussion video. I don't want to make this go too long because I want to make it completely engaging, but the question that I'm posing in this video is a deck like Border Stun playable in the current meta? So if you like what we do here, please feel free to like, subscribe. If not, it is all cool. We're trying to get videos out every single day. Like this week, I did miss a couple of days, but I had a lot of stuff going on. That's kind of how it goes. But so we're trying to just get as much as we can out to promote the video, try and get 500 subscribers. So help us get there. So with all that out the way, let's go ahead and get into discussion. Now, when I say in a deck like Border Stun, I'm talking a deck where you pretty much play monsters like Spectre Border, Fossil Dyna, and Thunder King Ryo, and then you essentially back them up with like the best. You kind of essentially back them up with the best trap cards for that certain meta. Like the only thing that really stays the same are those three monsters. Every now and then you could kind of throw something in different. Like you could throw in the Banisher of the Radiance. That's always a good card. I like to kind of throw in the side deck sometimes, depending if it's like a graveyard heavy meta. So there are a couple monsters you can switch out, but for the most part these stay the same, and then you run any number of trap cards and certain draw cards to get to where you need to be. Now I'm kind of talking about back when Card Demise was still around. So Card Demise is currently at 1 on our list, the HD list, but it was brought down to, well, okay, it's at 1 on our list, but it used to be at 3. This was one of the best draw cards you could run the deck, because you could run the draw cards like Card Demise. You could run Pot of Extravagance or Pot of Duality, Pot of Extravagance, Pot of Duality, or Pot of Desire. Because this is actually before this is, well, not recent, but this is before Pot of Prosperity came out. But Card Demise was a really good card, and that really helped it like kind of get you where you needed to be with the deck. So without this card, I've kind of noticed that it lost a lot of power. But this weekend I ended up at my locals. I ended up getting into a debate with someone who claimed that it is the claim that the deck is usable in this format. And but the way he was kind of framing it was if it was on the same level as if you were to run like Trap Trick or Labyrinth. And I was kind of telling him, well, it is still good, but not really. Like I understand how powerful, he was kind of saying if you get the right monster, and then you're gonna have something to protect it, then you're gonna have this trap. And I'm like, yeah, that's true, but that's true, but without something like Card Demise, decks like the Visa Starfrush, Vanadium, also stuff like the Cashier Fenrir, even stuff like Runic, all these things are extremely fast and extremely consistent, to where even if you have the right monster, if you don't have like the perfect back row, you do not have the ability to even toolbox or kind of keep up with some of these decks. Like having having card like Card Demise was something to where you felt more comfortable putting a lot of commitment on the board to make sure you had enough power to go against whatever whatever your opponent was gonna do, knowing you had a lot of ways to kind of refuel the whole back row. So but I did agree with them that like, yeah, it is a good deck. Like it isn't a bad deck by any means, but also it's one of those decks where it takes more than just a good pilot. It takes more than just being good at Yu-Gi-Oh. You have to be good at Yu-Gi-Oh. You have to understand a lot of different interactions, and you really need to understand the meta. And you also kind of gotta be a little realistic and kind of say to yourself, is this meta too fast for a deck like for a deck like this? Because in a deck with a whole bunch of these these kind of summons where they can't really stop with a border or anything, that stuff that stuff's really gonna get you off guard. A deck that has a whole bunch of interruptions, a whole bunch of disruption cards, ways to negate effects, searching like Runic, that's kind of like really crazy. On top of that, the board breakers that we have now. Back then, when sorry, back then there was way less board breakers, and there's like kind of in a sense of there was less board breakers around. Like we didn't have lightning storm. I think Pangodox came out a little before Card Demise got banned. So I think like maybe at the end of the run, they like Paint came out. So there wasn't like, and then also Dark Hole was at 1 and everything. I don't even think Rageki was back at that point. So you had a lot of. You also did not have. Book of Moon was still at 1 too. It was still on the list. So it was before Book of Moon came back. So you had way less board breakers, way less cards to just shut off everything. So I was kind of trying to. Basically I was kind of telling them that like, yeah, it is true that if you go first with even without the best setup, as long as you have a decent setup, yeah, you can navigate around it. But I'm telling you, like something like a deck like a deck like this, to where if they have two card combos, and you feel me, it's like okay, like if you get around their freaking 2 interruptions, they're probably just gonna get these out. Or if you like let them go too far and you try to stop them later and they have another extender, then you're kind of screwed anyway. So it isn't like back then to where the decks were not as fast and powerful. You feel me? So like with the addition of the more faster decks, you got more board breakers. So I was kind of like, man, like this is really kind of looking bad for it. But I didn't want to 100% like there was a couple of good points that he was making. One of the good points he made was Pot of Prosperity. Pot of like Prosperity is an extremely good card for that deck. That's somewhat I would say replaces the how I say this, like replaces the need for a card like Card of Demise, because it allows you to keep your hand, so it lets you still play a little more like conservative, and it allows you to dig for those exact cards you need. It lets you get into the exact monster that you want if you're able to find like a good supply of those monsters. And also, like I said, on top of that, you're still able to run a lot of the other draw cards, like a lot of those draw cards are still at 3, except for Pot of Desire, but it's at 2. So if you still want to run that's still an option. So like there is a lot of draw potential. So that was one thing kind of going for him. So I did want to mention that there is still a lot of playability in that deck. It isn't just like, okay, it's dead and no one cares about it. On top of that, Time Tearing Morganite. This is something that I didn't really like I knew it was there, and I did run this in my Runic deck, but when it came, like the way he was explaining it for Time Tearing Morganite is you would actually run it at I'm thinking like he was explaining it more as you're running this at more than just 1 copy. Maybe you're running 2, maybe even 3 copies to kind of get that beneficial, to kind of like see it more, because you really want the ability to draw 2 cards instead of 1, and you can conduct 2 normal summons per turn. That's actually very important, because it was something that like I was thinking about, like, yeah, you know what, that right there kind of solves 2 problems with the deck. The first problem it solves is giving the ability to draw 2 cards really will help you in the grind game, because Border Sun does not have that great of a grind game. So Time Tearing Morganite could really help in the grind game, and this could just solve the grind game issue. Problem 2 is when you draw 2 monsters, you feel like you really feel bad. But if you have Time Tearing Morganite, you could essentially put them both on the board, and they will act as your floodgates, and that could put a lot of pressure on your opponent, and that right there could be enough to end some of the game. So this is something that I'm really interested in. I'm actually going to go ahead and give this a shot, and go ahead and give like the Border Sun. I want to give the Border Sun a fair shot, but right now I am focused on a different deck. So maybe after this upcoming September regional, I'll probably try Border Sun. But let me know down in the comments below how you feel about Border Sun. Tell me if you think it's a good deck. Tell me if you're gonna try it. Tell me if you think it's, you know, if it could be like a good rogue contender. Tell me no, it's not, because it doesn't have enough juice, because, you know, Trap Trick and Labyrinth are only good back row decks because they have like the monster lineups behind them. Let me know your feelings down below. Peace out, guys, and I'll catch you in the next.